Look right below the shield and you're going to see two Gunstock war clubs. They're the real angular ones with the blades jutting outwards. There they are. Focus on them for a sec. And this is a classic Native American weapon. It's also, like the tomahawk and spontoon tomahawk seen here as well, an item that would not have existed in the Americas, in North America, if it wasn't for contact with European colonists. Well, that's certainly true for the spontoon tomahawk. The tomahawk itself still would have, but not in metal. We're not sure if the gunstock or rabbit leg club was an indigenous design, an original design, one that was based on the stocks of European guns, or if there's some kind of overlap there, like they had designs like the one that we're looking at right here. It's kind of, a war club that's shaped so that it sweeps away from the point of impact. But then maybe that design was refined to be modeled more after the angular look of gunstocks. I mean, this one here really looks like a rifle rifle outline that happens to have a blade jutting out. That's not a theory you see often when they kind of splay out the options, but it's one I thought of that seems as likely as any, or at least worth mentioning. Notice the stone blade on this one. Don't let that fool you. There are no examples of this weapons type from before contact with Europeans. At least that's my understanding, and that makes sense because if the opposite was the case, then why would anybody even ponder how European guns led to the invention of this weapon? There was a fair amount of variation with these. You can see this one is practically straight. It's just like a nail through a 2x4, basically. Pretty crude, but effective enough when you're fighting an unarmored opponent. Looks like the point might have even been broken off on this one, and we can imagine how that might have happened. Here's a more typical example, and that blade is going to hold up well under stress, right? It's pointy but rounded, if that makes any sense. But that way you get kind of the advantage of a reduced striking surface with a more rugged point than if it was very pointed. So here's some of the handles. Not going to say much about that. This example here is really amazing. It's notable for the shape, the twin blades, and the extensive use of tacks, which we've seen on a lot of other Native American implements. Are the twin blades practical? I don't think so. I think one is better than two in this case, but it was probably kind of a prestige thing. More of a visual design consideration. Nobody knows exactly, but it was probably more for a ceremonial version of the weapon. The high level of artistry on this one would seem to reinforce that. And then if you look at this one, which also has two blades, same thing. This has a much higher degree of polish, doesn't it, than a lot of the ones we saw earlier. Now, getting hit with 2 or 3 blades even at once would not feel good, but I assume the multi-blade configurations were more for just showing off. Back to this overall type, it was an eastern woodlands thing, but it also extended into the plains, so it had a wide geographic use. Now we get back to the spike variation. And this one's really incredible. I have to assume that the head is shaped like an animal purposefully. You'll really see that as we pan out. And this is an interesting nexus, right, of like native art and foreign-inspired art, in as much as the shape of the clubs were based on the gunstocks, which again is just a theory. So anyway, really fascinating collection here of a classic and pretty unique Native American weapon. Thanks.